Well, a very good morning to everybody. My name is Matthew Sinclair. I'm from SAP. I'm responsible for our SAP SME solutions. I think that video gives us a very stark reminder of just how difficult the past 3 to 6 months have been for all of us. You know, it's presented difficult circumstances, both professionally and indeed personally. But I think, you know, there are positives that have come of it, you know, and I think a time such as this gives us a moment of reflection on our lives. So welcome this morning. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join. I'm not sure if any of you have had any engagement with SAP previously, but what I would like to start with is just to give you a bit of an overview of us as a company. So we have 48 years experience, so we're not a terribly old ERP company. We have 20 development centers around the world. So in Europe, one of our largest ones is in Bratislava. We also have a huge lab in China where we do a lot of our R&D and obviously a lot of our development and creating of our prototypes as well. We try to invest as much back into R&D as possible. So as you can see here, 4.3 billion euros last year was invested back into making and improving our products. And typically, anywhere up to 10% of that figure is invested back into our SME offering. So again, that is very significant. And that is because we are an ERP company. We have to make sure that our ERP products are best in class. In the 48 years, we've amassed 440,000 customers across the world. So again, a pretty significant number. But what is perhaps even more surprising to many is that 80% of our customers are actually SMEs. So many people look at the blue and white logo and think SAP, big, expensive, takes a long time to implement. Clearly, that's not the case. You know, we have an SAP SME offering here that is affordable, it is scalable, very quick to implement, and a low total cost of ownership. So with 80% of our customers being SMEs, that is absolutely an area of focus for SAP going forward. And finally, just a bit of a couple of interesting facts. You know, if you've got any denim jackets or jeans, SAP produce 82% of the world's denim. And perhaps what's more relevant, certainly over lockdown at least, we produce 77% of the world's beer. So where would we be without it? Well, probably a little bit healthier and a little bit wealthier. Anyhow, what I also wanted to do was give you a bit of a kind of show you the human behind the brand. So we are doing a huge amount of sustainable activity in the background as well. So we aim as a company, and we've committed to become carbon neutral by 2025. And actually, from internal communications, it seems we'll be there a little bit sooner than that, which is great. We are the #1 company for sustainability. So there are a number of metrics that companies go through to achieve this sustainability index, and SAP came out on top, which was a fantastic achievement for us. Last year, we volunteered almost 300,000 hours to not-for-profits, charities and social enterprises. And again, we aim to build on that this year. And a lot of that work goes into some of these logos you see on the bottom right here. Any golfers in the audience will know probably Ernie Els, and we support his Autism at Work charity because him and his family have been personally affected by autism, so he's kind of a brand ambassador for that. And that's where we welcome people that are suffering from autism into the office, because typically they are some of the most creative minds in the workplace. We also work with Wings for Life, so any veterans that have been injured in the field and have lost their mobility or indeed are going through rehabilitation to get back mobile, we're supporting them in doing so. The terrible explosion that we saw in Beirut, we delivered 100,000 euros to several reputable not-for-profits across that region to deliver food and medical supplies and some shelter for the victims. And of course, I have to mention COVID. We offered a number of our pieces of software free of charge to many customers and indeed non-customers. But I think more importantly, we actually built an app whereby we offered it out to key workers. So many key workers with, public transport having gone down and whatever else, we're incurring a lot of expense. So working with our Concur solution, which is travel and expense, we pushed this app out to the key workers so that they could submit their expenses. We would process it and ensure that they were reimbursed in a very efficient and timely manner. So just some things we're doing away from our day-to-day software engineering. So SAP's best kept secret, that's why we're all here. That's what we want to talk about. That is SAP's SME offering. We have, and here's just some facts and figures which I will talk through briefly at a high level. We have more than 70,000 customers globally, using SAP's SME solution. And that equates to more than 1 million users every single day logging into their system and trusting the SAP SME offering to run their line of business and run their company. It is a truly global solution. We have 44 country localizations, and it's available in 29 languages. So a localization is simply a set of legislation against which the software must adhere to, whether that's tax, for example. And it's been deployed in over 150 countries. So those localizations and that number of languages really allow for a global scalable solution. We have 900 partners across the world, so we only sell our SME solution indirectly through our resellers, but many of those guys have been with us since the product came to the UK almost 20 years ago. So they're all very, very experienced and obviously go through consistent annual accreditation with SAP. We have very strong roadmaps that are a core part of SAP strategy. So we have a short-term roadmap and indeed a long-term roadmap. So what that allows is, and all of these are published on sap.com, by the way, so you can go on and have a look at them in your own time. We have 60,000 installations of the mobile app. Obviously, that is incredibly important to many businesses at the moment. And we also have a number of large enterprise companies that have realized the value in the SAP SME solution. Of course, it's targeted towards the SME market. However, what a lot of the large enterprise companies have also realized is that because it's so rich in functionality and it's so scalable, actually installing something like the SAP Enterprise product is simply overkill. So they've recognized the value in installing a solution that is quick to implement and has a much lower total cost of ownership. So over 2,500 of their subsidiaries are running our SME solution. Here are just some of the companies that are running our SME solution. So hopefully you recognize a couple of them. So Saddleback in the top right, for example, is very, very relevant right now, given we have the Tour de France happening, and many of the bikes that you see on there will have their sports saddle created by Saddleback. We also have Graph Diamonds, so if any of you are wearing any jewelry today, it's odds on that some of those diamonds came from Graph. And if any of you have children and they carry around a little fluffy bunny or dog, for example, it's very likely that's been produced by our customer Jellycat. So while some of these probably aren't household names, they're very, very relevant in our day-to-day lives. And actually, we have 2,500 customers running SAP's SME solution across the UK and Ireland, and 400 of those are referenceable. Obviously, me as head of SME would love to see all 2,500 references, and that is work in progress. But for now, we have 400 of them, and many of them have been lucky enough to record videos in many of them as well. So we'll send out links, and you can have a look at some of those in your own time. I've taken the liberty really to try and assume, I guess, what some of the main challenges are for you. So, and actually these have also come from conversations that we're consistently having with our partners and indeed our customers. So, we hear all the time that companies are struggling to grow and develop and diversify into new areas, and that in turn, of course, mitigates risk. Obviously, with the pandemic happening, business continuity is at the forefront of many businesses and people's minds. Real-time analytics, no longer really is it acceptable to run a report before you go home on a Friday evening and then come back on Monday and the report's there and waiting. But if somebody enters something into the system, that report is already out of date. So you have to have real-time analytics. And side by side to that is you have to have a real-time view of stock. Also, our SME solution facilitates international expansion, yeah, because of those localizations and because of the languages that it's available in. Whether you're going to expand nationally or internationally, we're seeing a huge surge in the number of businesses expanding into Asia right now because that economy is growing so quickly. Our software allows and facilitates that for your business. So the answers to some of the challenges that you face, take benefit from our expertise. As you saw on the first slide, we've been doing this for 48 years. So we'd like to think we're pretty experienced in ERP and business management software. So please come and engage with us, come and speak to us. We are a cloud company powered by our enterprise grade database, which you may have heard of. It's called SAP HANA. It was one of the first in-memory databases released to market, and essentially that's what allowed the real-time view of stock or the real-time analytics we just talked about. The beauty about the SAP SME solution is that it's available on premise. It can be hosted in one of the hyperscalers, such as AWS or Azure, or indeed it can be hosted by SAP. So you have those three options available to you. So you have your traditional on-premise, a hybrid model, or a true cloud offering. We would like to inspire you. Come and speak to our teams. Come and speak to us about strategy. We have an offering today that I can share with everybody after the call. Is we have an experience center at our head office in Feltham, and because of the events over the past 6 months, we've actually transformed that into a digital experience. And there we have a design thinking room. So we would absolutely love to go through a design thinking session with you to understand exactly what your challenges are, perhaps specific to your business or industry, and indeed what your short and long-term goals are, and actually if and how our SAP SME offering can help you achieve those goals. And that brings me nicely on to the intelligent enterprise. And that is what we're trying to achieve across all of our product stack. So not just our enterprise grade products, but also our SME products as well. So you may have heard this term. It's been bandied about quite a lot in the software industry. And hopefully I'll be able to explain a little bit more about, at a high level, what the intelligent enterprise is, and then how that relates to the SAP SME offering.
Intelligence is what sets us apart as humans. As we evolve, technology advances with us, offering new opportunities. But taking advantage of these opportunities can be a challenge. There's a larger transformation at play. The next era of computing will be defined by intelligent enterprises. Lead or follow, adapt or risk getting left behind. Organizations need to cut through the hype and be more useful and efficient to be an intelligent enterprise, to make the world run better using emerging technologies so people can focus on higher value outcomes. We call it augmented humanity. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, doing more with less, empowering people to focus on meaningful work, delivering best-in-class, proactive customer experience, finding new opportunities and ways to thrive, innovating. How? With an intelligent suite for automated business processes, a digital platform for data orchestration and applications integration, and intelligent technologies to detect patterns, predict outcomes, and suggest actions. Gain visibility, focus, and agility. Improve people's lives. All the pieces of the puzzle coming together, working as one. That's the intelligent enterprise.
Great, so hopefully that gives you a high-level view with regards to the intelligent enterprise. But before we go on to what it is, I'd like to start with why now? Why are we hearing all this intelligent enterprise and digital transformation type language? And hopefully this graphic, it may be a little bit small on your screens, but hopefully it's quite a lot of text on there. But essentially, the rate of growth of technology and innovation, certainly over the past 20 to 25 years, has just gone absolutely exponential, and actually will only continue to accelerate at that speed. So just as an example, if you look at this graphic here, in the 1400s, we had the printing press. In the mid-1800s, we had the first car. And then if you look in the 1980s, we kind of had the word processor. Then we had the World Wide Web boom, social media, hybrid cars. Now we have self-drive cars, and there's autopilot, 3D movies and 3D chips. So hopefully this gives you an idea as to the rate of change of technology, and it will never slow down. And what that means for us as businesses is that we need to ensure that we're agile. We need to ensure that we're able to adapt to changing business environments, as we've just seen. And at the core of that, the core of being agile and being able to do that is your software and your business management software that runs your business. So that is why it is so important to consider a solution like SAP, because it will give you that automation, de-risk business. And actually, if we're not able to be agile, we'll lose business and our competitors will take it. Actually, we've seen that with some customers over the past 6 months or so. Technology maturity, there are kind of, in my opinion, two elements to the intelligent enterprise. There's hyperconnectivity, which in turn drives a smart world. So hyperconnectivity, we as people, well, nowadays, whether we like it or not, we're connected to everything, right? We're connected to our mobile phones, our laptops, our watches, our cars, you name it, we're connected to it. And that in turn makes them smart devices. So, we look at big data and advanced analytics. We've already talked about that. No longer is it acceptable to have a report that we run the night before and then have it in the morning. Actually, what customers are demanding now is predictive analytics. So perhaps for some unknown reason, you have an item of stock that goes out of stock every second week in April, but it's nothing to do with your seasonal business. Wouldn't it be nice if in the second week of March, with a 4-week lead time, your system prompted the user in procurement to buy an additional couple of units of that stock so that you didn't run out? It's that type of thing. We're trying to bring that intelligence to the user. AI, we hear a lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning. I always use the example on my phone. So I have, when I'm well, not anymore because of pandemic, but pre-lockdown, when I used to get in the car, I used to get a notification on my phone saying 59 minutes to Feltham, which is where the SAP office is, or an hour 7 to Feltham. I didn't program that into the Maps app or anything. It just knows that at that time, every morning, that is the journey that I take. And exactly the same when I get home. 7 o'clock, I get back in the car, 7 p.m. I take 9 minutes to gym or 10 minutes to the gym. And again, I haven't programmed it. It's just intelligent enough to track my movements and know at that time, that is the journey that I'll most likely be taking. And that's just a pretty simple example of machine learning. So I guess more importantly, how does that relate back to SAP and our SME offering? So at the heart of it, we call it the Intelligence Suite. It's the core ERP. That is SAP's bread and butter. That is what we do day in, day out, and that is what we'll continue to develop and make intelligent. But around that, if it's of interest, we also have a number of innovative products, ranging from customer experience to digital supply chains, network and spend management. That's the Concur solution I referenced earlier, and how we developed the app for the COVID pandemic. So perhaps out of the box, if you need something a little bit deeper or a little bit more detailed, as SAP, we genuinely believe we are the only company on the market to have that true end-to-end connected, intelligent offering. And then underneath, what does that give us? It gives us these 4 pillars. It gives a completely integrated suite, so an end-to-end solution that is affordable and very quick to implement with a low TCO. It gives us, as we've talked about, real-time views of analytics and stock, so it's extremely insightful and actually allows us to make agile and informed decisions for our business. And it's built for growth. We're very lucky in the SME space in that there was an enterprise-grade database in HANA, which I referenced earlier, developed for our big customers. Actually, what we've done is we've taken that and brought it down to an SME price point with the same power. So actually, we have users that range from 1 or 2 users all the way up to 10,000 users using our SME offering. So really, is that scalable. And of course, continuous innovation. You saw on the first slide the amount of R&D that's being piled into our products, between 400 million and half a billion every single year being put into our SME product, make them best in class. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea around about the intelligent enterprise. Again, I appreciate that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour and it's relatively fast, but following this call, I'd love to offer that design thinking session. If you've got any questions around the intelligent enterprise and what it can do for you, I'll be very happy to do it. I've just been told I need to speed up, so I am delighted to introduce next Jonathan Phillips from Aspen Pumps. Jonathan is a long-standing SME customer of ours. He's the Group Business Manager at Aspen. Jonathan, good morning to you.
Morning, Matt. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining. So, Jonathan, perhaps just to set a bit of context, would you mind just telling us just briefly a little bit about Aspen Pumps?
Yes, of course. Aspen Pumps, look, I've been here. I think next week it'll be 17 years since I first walked in the door here.
Wow.
And I've watched Aspen Pumps develop from a very UK-centric manufacturer of condensate pumps and accessories into a real global market leader in the markets that we deal in. International sales, really complex supply chain. And it's a company focused on innovation, on sustainability, on the quality of our products, and the commercial and the marketing and how we represent ourselves to our customers around the world.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So would you be able to share with us a little bit about your software selection process? Perhaps you were looking at, I'm sure it wasn't only SAP you were looking at, and how you arrived at your decision.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it earlier in the presentation, actually. And the truth is, Matt, that we nearly overlooked SAP as a solution. There is a preconception, I think, with SAP as a brand that it's very expensive. And it's, as you said, expensive and time-consuming, and it's going to be a 5-year project, and we're never going to get it done. So in truth, Aspen nearly overlooked it. But the way we did our selection process was not to actually look at the vendors in the marketplace, not to go look at the providers, but to actually take a good look at our business. Not a process map, not a bottom to top process, but a very top to bottom look at what Aspen wanted to be 3-4 years on from when we were starting to implement our solution. And we were very interested in mapping out what the supply chain would look like in 3-4 years' time, which is around about now, what our customer base would look like, and how our business would feel and behave today, effectively, rather than when we started 4 years ago. So we produced a slide set about what we thought Aspen was, what kind of characteristics we were looking for in an ERP, and sent it to the range of providers we thought would meet those requirements. And SAP actually ended up as almost a bit of a bolt-on because of this, best kept secret that, 4 years ago, possibly even more secret than it is now. But we sent it through to the providers and intern partners, and then did an evaluation based on what they came back with as to how does our solution meet your needs, not right now, but how is it going to be in 3-4 years' time? And does the ERP solution fit what you want to be moving forwards?
Fantastic. So you also went through that, looking at where Aspen's goals are short-term and long-term, and then selecting the relevant solution. Great. And so, of course, I have to ask, why did you select SAP?
Good question. Look, SAP is, in hindsight, SAP is synonymous with ERP. You talk about ERP and solutions to support a global business. And if you're anything like a large enterprise, SAP is probably in the starting lineup of things to consider. But actually, for an SAP like Aspen, who perhaps you could describe as being resource constrained with the number of staff we had, how much time we could spend implementing a solution, choosing SAP allowed us to really leverage the experience that SAP brought to the table in terms of doing ERP for these large companies. And as an SME, being able to piggyback on the back of that experience, use the best practice that was offered within the solutions, and also take advantage of the fact it was always live. The quarterly updates or the updates to the solution that we've selected, meaning that the SAP are constantly building and innovating, adding new functionality that we could then leverage to improve our business. And what attracted us was perhaps the ease of use of the system that we saw, the SAP experience, if you like, that other providers probably just can't match. and the level of innovation and the desire in the SME space actually to really make a solid offering and improve that best kept secret, as the webinar's titled.
Amazing. And would you be able to tie down what you consider are the three main benefits that you're seeing from implementing these SME offerings?
Yeah, sure. Look, as an SME, one thing that's key to us has been growth. We innovate constantly. The commercial team are out looking for new markets, product development. How we go about expanding our business so we can grow. Within the SME space, from a small SME up to what I describe as being a large SME, and then even onto that into a big global enterprise. So the scalability for us was key. Our first implementation was here in sunny Hailsham, where I sit today. And actually, since then, the scalability of the solution, the SME solution, has allowed us to do implementations at 2 other UK sites and across at our subsidiaries in France and Germany and America. So we've gone from one UK-centric business into a very international flavoured organisation with SAP software deployments across 5-6 sites, and moving from what we started about 30 users into the hundreds of users now across the globe. So that for us was big, and the solution allowed us to handle the complexity we thought we were going to face. From a supplier universe, everything channeled through a UK hub and then out to our customers, into a kind of business world where the international supply chain was providing multiple hubs, one effectively logical business, but across multiple geographies, and then getting products closer to customers and servicing this customer universe across 80, 90, sometimes even 100 countries of sales. So that we were confident that we could handle the complexity of the logistics and the supply chain within the solution. But also a key factor, you're thinking about, an SAP business that's got, German employees, French employees. We pride ourselves actually on our international staff base. One thing that Aspen is great at is diversity. You take a good look around our site, whether it be the production facility here in Hailsham or the external sales team across the world. And one thing that then becomes critical is they must have a cloud solution with information available as live as possible. So as soon as that sale's made, they want to know about it, and they must be able to use it simply. The interface must be there for them to log on, get the information they need, leverage the mobile technology, and get information coming as quickly as possible. And we found that those benefits have been delivered absolutely by what we've implemented.
That's fantastic. So just to summarise there, Jonathan, scalability, reducing complexity or simplification, and expanding internationally.
Quite right.
Thank you. And finally, just conscious of time, would you be able to leave the audience with perhaps a key takeaway?
Yeah, sure. Look, I'll split it into 2 bits. The first I'd say is, it's this webinar's not titled "The Best Kept Secret for Nothing." Don't make a mistake that we're nearly made in writing off SAP as a large enterprise solutions only. Yeah. Actually, the SME offering is quite powerful, and it's being invested in constantly. And secondly, as an SME, approaching your project in a way that we did, looking at our business, but also saying, okay, if we can leverage a solution with best practice, how can we model ourselves around the SAP experience, with these large enterprises, but also with SMEs? And if we can adapt ourselves to align ourselves with the software, with the SME, we can do something quite powerful here. And in that sense, the mentality of, it's not you, it's me. So saying, actually, if we can change our company to match these best practice, these ideal market-leading processes that the SME solutions offer, then we can do something really good, which is actually focus on our business, commercial innovation, do what Aspen does best, and let SAP support us, with all the effectively the system that provides the infrastructure for the whole operation.
Fantastic. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. It's always great to speak to you, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the continued growth with Aspen and extended rollouts of the SAP SME solution and our continued close working relationship. Thank you for joining.
Likewise. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much. Good. Okay. And next, we have an exclusive interview with one of our brand ambassadors for SAP SME, which is Colin Turkington. Some of you may or may not be familiar with British Touring Car. I wasn't that familiar with it, I have to be honest, before we engaged with Colin 3 or 4 years ago now. But I was at his final race last season when on the penultimate lap, his competitor span off and Colin managed to secure the championship. So it was quite an incredible day. So next, I want to share with you the interview with Colin. Colin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while since we last spoke. How have you been?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Matt. It's great to be able to see you and talk to you again. I think the last time we spoke was the season final, British Touring Car Championship final last year. So a lot of things have happened, good and bad, since then. And I'm already back in the thick of another campaign. But we're all safe and well up here in Milton Keynes. We've dealt with a lot, but looking forward to the future, and everybody is in good health, as I hope all our viewers are. So that's the main priority at the moment.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And as you say, what a day it was at the final day of the championship last year. Quite incredible, and what a win for you. If you can dive straight in, Colin, and just perhaps tell us a little bit about what you've been up to during lockdown. Have you managed to keep any consistency in terms of training, etc.? Have you managed to keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, it's been a really strange time for me, as it has for all you guys. Our season would normally start on the 1st of April. So we'd done all our pre-season testing and preparation. Then the country went into lockdown. I think it was the 23rd of March. So it was a very late call that our season was postponed, and eventually it did start again on the 1st of August. But there was a lot of uncertainty, if it would start, when it would restart. So we didn't quite know if we would even have a season of racing at all. So it was a difficult time for me personally, but I knew how important it was to stay positive and to keep focused on my goals. And obviously I was at home all that time, and I have two young kids, sort of 10 and 11 years old, primary school kids. So we're able to spend some quality time on their homeschool and fill some of the gaps in their education, actually. So it was nice to be able to spend that time with a family that otherwise I wouldn't be able to do. And of course we did all the fun things, the bike rides and the walks in the park, and plenty of cooking and eating become a big part of our day. But as far as training for my sport, it was almost impossible, because motorsport's quite unique in that you can't go out the backyard and practice. So once I sort of got a sniff that lockdown was coming, I got a racing simulator in the house so that I could take part in some esports races and just keep my racing brain engaged. I wanted to stay as sharp as I could and just keep practicing. And I did some endurance races, which were actually quite good for the physical condition as well. But also physical training, I was doing that almost daily, just to try and fill the time, and that become a good, a strong focus for me, and it was also quite useful in burning off a few extra calories that I'd consumed from the night before. I think everybody was in the same boat on that one, but yeah, we're out the other side, and I feel that I made really valuable use of the downtime. Actually, I'm somebody that always likes to try and improve and grow, and I was conscious to try and use the time to try and learn some new skills. So I started doing some CrossFit and a bit of yoga and meditation, and those are the things that normally I would never have time to explore, but I had the time, and those are things that I think will help me going forward.
Amazing. The racing simulator sounds pretty cool. Well, that's how it Colin.
Yeah, it was just quite difficult to keep the kids off it. They were trying to do their maths, and I was racing around Brands Hatch, so bit of a distraction.
Yeah, no doubt.
And obviously, we're lucky enough to have the season again, and obviously it got restarted under very different circumstances, I'm sure. But what's it been like going back to work for you under the different circumstance?
Well, the landscape has completely changed, Matt. BTCC race, you would expect somewhere, 30 to 40,000 people at the event, and now we have no spectators, no VIP hospitality, no guests. So it's just like being on an extended test day. There only is actually the race personnel there. So the atmosphere is quite flat, but luckily when you're in the car, you don't think about that too much. You're just focused on trying to go fast. But how we go about, how we approach the sport is all quite different. All the drivers have been COVID tested before the start of the season, and we have to wear our face masks from the moment we enter the venue, and things like our driver's briefing and sign on, which we would have done in person. Now that's all done virtually before we get to the races, and the teams are all kept in their own bubbles. There's no mixing with other teams, and there's only a maximum of 6 team personnel allowed in the garages at any one time. So we have, like every other business, we have to keep to the strict guidelines to make sure that the things continue, and that our sport is able to keep going right until the season finishes in November. So we've had to adapt, and one of the biggest important aspects for me, or something that I take very seriously, is my diet and nutrition. And we would have the team chefs that would cater bespoke meals for me, and obviously that can't happen now. So one of the things that we put in place, I knew it was important for me to put in place, was to get our own motorhome, our own sports home. It's basically a converted Mercedes Sprinter van. Okay. And that's a private space for us to stay safe and secure, but also for my wife Louise to prepare all my meals, so I can eat at the racetrack like I used to, and like I normally eat at home. So there's absolutely no drop offs. So I think we've adapted to the new ways of working quite well.
Well, it's very surreal having nobody there. And in terms of, obviously we weren't too sure at one point whether the season was going to be on or off, given obviously the ever-changing circumstances on a daily basis. So how did you manage to, you mentioned perhaps meditation there and a bit of yoga, but how did you manage to stay in the right mindset and keep motivated in the event that the season would restart?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, I think, for anybody to stay positive, because we didn't know what the future was going to bring, if I was going to have a season of racing. But I do remember reading in a book once that as an athlete you should never be more than 6 weeks away from your best performance. So I was conscious not to indulge too much and put too much weight on, and I thought about my goals for the season daily. I tried to think about them daily and where I wanted to be come November, at the end of the season. And like I said earlier, I just used the time to try and better myself, to try and grow in certain areas, so that when the season did start, that I was there, that I was ready to go. And I think the physical training and the esports that I talked about, were really good tools for me to just keep engaged with motorsport and keep my racing brain, ticking over. And as soon as lockdown was eased, I got straight back out in my go-kart. I have a go-kart that I use just for, to keep fit and keep sharp with. So, I started doing that again, and doing some track days, because I knew the season could come upon us very quickly. And with the new calendar, we have a completely condensed season. And in August, I had 4 races in 5 months. So I knew I needed to be able to perform straight away. So I focused on doing some meditation and just getting rest as well. getting sleep in the bank, because it was going to be all guns blazing. So I was conscious to use the time as productively as I could.
And clearly it's paid off, because I've been following the season as it's unfolded since the restart, and clearly you're top of the championship at the moment, so hopefully that's still the situation when the season ends in November.
Yeah, let's hope so. And you know, I fully believe that the hard work I did through lockdown has got me straight back into this position. You know, almost left off. You know, I picked up where I left off at the end of last year. Whereas, you know, I could see some of my competitors had come back a little bit rusty, because you know, they hadn't driven in 4 or 5 weeks, and you know, they didn't have these simulators. You know, they'd spent the time, you know, just, you know, watching Netflix or doing whatever. So you know, any chance that I see as an opportunity to improve, I know I have to grab it, because the motorsport seasons just roll in very quickly, and you do get very little downtime normally.
Yeah, sure. And we have a number of fast-growing companies in the audience, and clearly everybody, regardless of what industry you're in, has had to adapt to these sometimes difficult circumstances. How do you think your experience over the last kind of 3 to 6 months can relate to them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels can be drawn between, you know, the industry that I live and work in, you know, compared to you know, all the you know, the people that are consuming this interview. You know, motorsport is a highly unpredictable industry at the best of times, and you know, there's always curveballs and things happening that you don't expect. And you know, I think one of the biggest lessons that I have learnt, you know, is just to be open to change, really, and adapt and flexible and new ways of working. I think we've all had to adapt, and you know, in the end, you know, sometimes for the better. You know, doing things like this, you know, the Microsoft Teams and all the Zoom calls. You know, that's something that you know, as Team BMW, that we didn't really do a lot of. And you know, the week after a race, we would always have an engineering meeting down at headquarters in Surrey, and you know, that meant probably up to a dozen of us travelling over an hour each to be there and sit around a table and you know, and have a debrief. Whereas now we'll do that virtually, you know, and we achieve just as much, and you know, it's a much more efficient use of our time. So you know, I think you know, that's one example. You know, I think there's a lot of things that we do differently now, and actually do better, because we've been forced to look down new avenues. And you know, I think as well, just staying positive. You know, you never quite know what was going to happen over the next six months, but I think just a positive attitude really has you know, I think keeps you mentally in the right place, and staying focused on the goals. You know, I think we all experience a lot of choppy waters, but you know, if we can keep focused on the goals and where we want to be, maybe in 6 months' time or in a year's time, I think that really helps. And you know, I think that you know, helps build a bit of resilience, because you know, in motorsport, you have a lot of ups and downs, and you know, especially in my championship, you know, it's you're never going to win all the races, you know, so you just have to keep working hard and delivering your best performance when you can.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think for many it has been a time of reflection actually over the past 6 months, and I think there have been many positives come of it, whether that's professionally or indeed personally. You know, whether that's balancing our work-life balance a bit better, or spending time doing things that we actually enjoy. So I think there are positives that have come of it. And just finally, Colin, I'm aware of your time. Can you just leave us perhaps with a key takeaway for the audience?
Yeah, I think just what I touched on previously, Matt, you know, was you know, the big lesson for me through lockdown was you know, 3 things really. Just positivity. You know, there was a lot of tough days, I think, for everybody, and And for me, just getting outside in the fresh air and a bit of exercise, kept me focused on my goals and kept me in a positive sort of mindset, and just also that adaptability to change and new ways of working, and having an open mind. I think because we've done things in a certain way for such a long period of time previously, it doesn't mean that that's always the best way. And just to be open-minded to maybe new ways of working that are potentially better and more efficient, and just trying to be resilient, and weather the storm sometimes, and a bit of hard work should see us all out the other side.
That's great. Well, Colin, thank you so much for your time today.
No, my pleasure, Matt. Good to
Great
talk to you.
And, you too.
No worries. All the best, guys.
Best of luck for the rest of the season.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck.
I'll need it.
Thanks, Colin.
Cheers. Thank you.
What a great guy! Such a great ambassador for us. So down to earth, and we genuinely wish him all the best for the rest of the season. So without further ado, Mia, I hope you're on the line and can hear me. It would be great if we could drill into some Q&A finish.
Yes, of course. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me too?
I can indeed.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for a good session. I think Colin is fantastic to listen to. So during now the time that has gone by, we have received a few questions, Matthew. So let me start with the first one. What is the minimum user account for the SME solution? I would only require 15 licenses for my business at the moment, but I plan to expand the business in the next 3 years. I will require a scalable solution.
It's a good question. I think this is the beauty about SAP's SME offering, is that there is no minimum user count. Like, we genuinely have customers that range from 1 or 2 users all the way up to 10,000 users. And again, that is because we have that scalable, powerful database that has been brought down from enterprise level to SME level. So no minimum user count. It can be as little or as much as you want it to be.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. And let's see here, we have a second one coming in, which says, I would like to implement a new solution for my business, but I'm worried about the downtime that might be required. How long does it typically take to implement the solutions?
Okay, I'll take that question in 2 parts. So the first part of it with regards to the downtime. Many of our partners follow the SAP implementation methodology, so actually there should be no downtime at all. Typically, we set up a test environment before we go into a production environment. So actually, that should be a seamless move from your old system. So in essence, there should be no downtime at all. In terms of how long it takes, of course, that depends on the complexity of the project, but we have known simple finance projects, for example, to go in between 4 and 8 weeks. I think a typical implementation probably takes kind of 12 to 15 weeks, something like that. So, as I say, very fast to implement functionality that you get.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think we have received a few more questions. I know we have, but I think it would be, just thinking about the time, I think we will leave the questions to there if you're not really keen on answering a third one, Matthew.
Now we can take one more. I see a question from Kelsey just quickly.
Okay, that one.
Can you explain the difference between Business One and Business ByDesign? So essentially the key difference, both of those are our SME offerings. One is on-premise, one is cloud. That is, in a nutshell, the very simple difference between the two. So I guess it very much depends on you as a business and how you want to consume your software. And finally, Mia, sorry, we have another question from.
No, go ahead.
Do you have any companies that use a 2-tier system as we try and integrate a new leading ledger into our main SAP system? We do, yeah. We have, as you saw hopefully on one of my earlier slides, we have many companies that are using perhaps enterprise SAP or another solution indeed at corporate level, and underneath that they have a number of subsidiaries, or perhaps it's a number of companies in a group, and they're using the SAP SME solution, and there is seamless integration between those enterprise products and indeed our SME solution. And that's just because that is the nature of how we made the solution. We made it so that it's really seamless to integrate into. So yeah, that's something we can certainly explore further.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Matthew. I think that clarified a lot of the questions that have been coming in. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mir. And I would just like to say a huge thank you to everybody, again, that took time out of their schedules and joined the webinar this morning. I hope it was useful for you, and we'll be reaching out shortly, and hopefully we can continue our discussion. Thanks again.